Hello everybody. My name is Mahashada, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Viriyagita, who's an order member, a long-standing order member in the US, actually, and she's been past several years been practicing the Dharma. I would say very effectively. I've had a couple of chats with Viriyagita before this one. A long-standing order member who's been practicing the Dharma with Parkinson's and been very, very active in her Dharma life. So I'm going to be speaking with Viriyagita today, just having an informal conversation with her about her Dharma practice, about how she practices under her current physical conditions, and also maybe we'll touch upon care in the Sangha, because I know Viriyagita's been involved in care in the Sangha, which we'll probably come on to a little later, and that relates to the Bhairatan Trust work around local care networks, trying to get local Sanghas more organised around looking after each other, more explicit, developing a more explicit organised culture of care in local Sanghas, where looking after each other becomes more of a collective practice, and adding to of course, the practice of metta on the cushion.
I have Parkinson's. Initially, medication made me appear fairly normal, but after a number of years, I ended up having difficulty with pain. Really, it was just a difficult contraction of muscles, and the pain got quite severe, to the point where, actually, at one point, I really wanted not to live anymore. Really, it was just so painful. But I ended up having deep brain electrical stimulation, and that essentially took away the pain. Didn't take away the Parkinson's, but took away the pain. And since then, I've been fairly stable. I've had a lot of extra uncontrolled movements, but there's been a lot of gifts from having, from having Parkinson's. My Dharma practice is really what I think has influenced, and particularly the Bodhisattva ideal. Really, I think the only thing that took away the pain before I received surgery was essentially I heard that children had a similar condition and had to endure it, and I ended up really, in a sense, taking on the pain of the children, sort of let me suffer it, for them. And that was the only thing that really, thinking of others who might be also suffering the same pain. And I mean, I had worked as a nurse, so I thought I had, a certain amount of empathy and an understanding of what people were experiencing. But then going through it myself, I realized that, how much deeper and how difficult it was to endure these conditions. So it just brought me to a sort of a deeper sense of being human, and a deeper sense of well, just a deeper connection with people. Yeah.
So
I've gone off script.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I'm really struck there, Viriyagita. I mean, look, this can be as informal as we want it to be, Viriyagita.
Okay.
I'm really struck there that I'm reminded of the bodhicitta practice. Had you come across the bodhicitta practice before starting?
Whether I had at the time. Yeah, and I think, well, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure then whether I had really. I mean, I think I had superficially. I don't think I really had, no. So that was a little while back. I haven't been doing that bodhicitta practice except for recently, really, in the last few years.
But it sounds like your pain brought you into a lot deeper connection with humanity.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. Yeah, in fact, recently, even more so, I realized well, I wasn't exactly a great patient because
mm,
my recent hospitalization, I alternated between having a lot of pain
mm,
and then not being able to move.
mm,
And so I ended up, well, not a good patient. I guess I had a difficult time when coping with the pain and coping with everything. And so a couple of times I let out a scream and I did different things.
mm,
And but what I realized with that was that, you know, every people have ways of coping with things. And I thought, gosh, I'll never really be able to judge someone
mm,
by how they cope with the difficulties and how they, you know, if I after all this practice I'm having a hard time
mm,
handling it,
mm,
then you know, people who haven't any uh experience of a deeper practice or you know, how can they, I mean, it's very,
mm,
very difficult.
mm,
So
mm,
and but it also, my practice also has helped me to sort of to experience it. I'm experiencing the pain in the moment.
mm,
Then in the next day or the next hour or whatever, it's I'm not having the pain, so I don't feel like I'm suffering.
mm,
I guess it has made a huge impact on suffering
mm,
because I think otherwise I would be
mm,
thinking about it all the time.
mm,
Yeah, but I have it and then
mm,
handle it in the way I handle it.
mm,
Hopefully,
mm,
you know, a little better. But
mm,
yeah, and I think it's funny. I think the I have a better sense of impermanence and
mm,
insubstantiality because I'm a different person at
mm,
a different point in the day. Like
mm,
we could be having this interview, and
mm,
depending on my medications, depending on a whole lot of variables,
mm,
I could be either, you know, slow and no affect, which is a little bit the way I am now, because I didn't want to have the uncontrollable movements, because then I look like I'm agitated or angry. But or I have a sense of, it's not really depressed, but you know, a little less confidence.
mm,
But then when I have the movements, I have a little more confidence, and I'm
mm,
just different, really.
mm,
And so I'm not as solid as I
mm,
felt before.
mm,
So, I mean, I have to say, I wouldn't request Parkinson's, but it's actually given me quite a bit.
mm,
Infused by the Dharma, really.
mm, mm,
Gosh, I've
mm.
given a whole different interview than I had written out.
Viriyagita, this is fine. Can I just say you come across really well. You're not come across slow at all. Um, so I just wanted to say that it's interesting because I had a stroke, a near fatal stroke in 2012, and it's the best thing that's happened to me in terms of my Dharma practice. You know, it kind of gave me a real insight into the Buddha's teachings at their profoundest, I think. Said you've had Parkinson's now for several years, and you've talked about some of the challenges of that. You've talked about how essentially the bodhicitta practice and your Dharma practice and Kshitigarbha as well have really helped you uh, live an active Dharma life despite the challenges. Um, One thing which we've talked about is something which we're doing in the Bharat Trust and something I alluded to earlier is helping local sanghas develop what we're calling local care networks, where local sanghas collectively pull skills and so on and so forth, knowledge, experience to help each other in the sangha. And I believe that you have been the recipient of a kind of a local care network something around Arya Loka. Is it Care Sangha? Was it Care Sangha?
Sangha care.
Yeah, Sangha Care,
Well, it turns out this was before COVID.
yeah.
And the time turns out that I was the only one. It was underutilized, actually.
Mm,
I think it was just beginning, and not it was a little, and it was a little broader than sort of healthcare and residence. It was, but it was dealt with needs in the sangha. but it was not that, and then it didn't really have enough time to take off. But yes, I benefited from the Sangha in general, but even more so when it was more organized and there was, someone to call, about particular needs, and so on. And since COVID, I think the people have aged and there's a lot more need out there. And
Yes.
what I found really frustrating initially was how to really access care that I needed. Initially, it was like, who do you call? This person is a lot of their time, and not sort of knowing who had the skills for different things. But I got transport to doctors' appointments, and people came and brought food and all sorts of things. So I did get a lot of care then.
And this is really interesting, Viriyagita, because you were a nurse and presumably you knew something about how to navigate into care. And even you found it difficult to navigate into care given your past employment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've had Parkinson's for about 20 years or so, but it's yeah, I mean, particularly the financial aspect things that I've had difficulty. I used to actually even work for an organization which dealt with how one accesses information, and in one of my jobs, but it took me when I finally ended up sort of exhausting my resources because I'm now in an assisted living situation. It took me almost 6 months. This was during COVID, so it's kind of it might be just lack of staff, but navigating the system. It just took me that. In fact, I even had to appeal once. And I can't imagine how difficult it is for other people to access this assistance. And New Hampshire has actually a very good system. They have choices for independence that can be accessed when one is not absolutely destitute. And it also tries to keep people in their home or in an assisted living situation, keep them as independent as possible, and provides transport and, personal care, all kinds of things like not 24 hours, but for a part of the time. And the problem they're having is that there is lack of staff available. But they're also willing to pay people. They could pay people within the Sangha or friends or family to provide some of that care. So it's a good system, but how you get there is not so easy.
But it's one of the ideas of the local care network is, at least here in the UK, which is where we're starting this work, is there are a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge from their past careers, for example, which could really help people access care a lot easier and a lot quicker. And it sounds like in the Sangha care around Viriyagita was something similar to what we're calling local care networks here in the UK, at least for now. So that's very, very encouraging to hear that you did get support from the Sangha to help you live and continue your Dharma practice.
Definitely. In fact, there's people, I mean, I've been talking with people here, and there's some people who definitely want to resurrect it.
Right.
And work with it. So I've already established a little pool to do that.
Great. And that is seen as an extension of one's practice. What we might do metta bhavana on the cushion, but this is what is it seen by people as an extension of this loving kindness practice. Viriyagita, so one thing which you have mentioned, which I found really interesting, was the vow you've taken not to end your life despite the pain. And that was
yes, I took,
Do you want to say a bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's
If you're
it's
okay
kind of
to.
the nature. Oh yeah, I am. I'm just trying. I Well, okay. I'll start at a little bit of the beginning of this sense of when I left the order. I remember the one thing that really kind of broke my heart in a way was that I'd taken a vow to help others, and just looking at it myself alone, I mean, I could do so much, but how much more that would be if it were with a group of people who that was the connection I had with them, and the order with its um, ideal, very self-ideal. How much more I can do that with people, and I was leaving a group of people who with whom that could be realized, and so and I felt a similar sense of it from Bob when I wanted. I really felt like at that point with the pain, I did want to. I just felt like, oh, I don't know if I can handle this, and but I felt, I think especially after finding that the only relief I could get was by helping others, and I thought, well, I do want to stay around, and I mean, because maybe even my pain or my dying or whatever was going to happen naturally might benefit someone. And so um at one point I sort of went down to the stupa Viriyagita, and I was still able to, and I sort of renewed what had been a more informal kind of sense of taking a vow that way, and I made it pretty. It was like a promise I made to Rinpoche, or it was, I won't consider doing anything like that, or or hoping for it in that kind of a way, as long as I can still be of benefit in some way, someone. So it felt like a very strong, felt like a vow, really. And so, again, I mean, even when I was in the hospital this time, when things were getting pretty bad, that's what I held on to, that vow, and I have a strong sense of that I'm like in service in well, to my yidam, and how I see it in particular, and that even though I'm sort of a bumbling human being doing this, still feels like a really important aspect of my practice to think of myself that way, and just trying to be of benefit as long as I can. And
Viriyagita, you're amazing. Say that I hadn't met you before, but I've just been so impressed by your commitment to your love of lineage, Bhante, Dada Rinpoche, Sangadevi, the vow you've taken. It's quite incredible, and all the teaching you've done and so on. And I'm really pleased as well that with the advent of online retreats, you can also go on retreat and get nourished yourself.
yes, Zoom has been amazing. Actually, it's frustrating in some ways, but it's been incredible. Attending conferences and attending. I just attended Tibetan Book of the Dead retreat online. It was great. So that's been really helpful, because it's hard in person, even though that's some ways can't be totally replaced, but it's a little harder then, because I would need more help at this point. But it's I'm not getting my movements, but
okay, that's probably, is that enough for Viriyagita?
yeah, I just wanted to say one thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
this is under sort of in the sense of what's needed by retreat leaders and
Yes.
go on a
Yes.
retreat with somebody with different
Yes.
disabilities.
Yes. Mm.
Well, looking at the privacy issue, it's all what someone might want, but I was just thinking of myself, it's like sometimes I'm not what I'm exhibiting is not always the way I'm feeling. So those kinds of things in terms of communication has become, more of a problem. And, if I don't have a affect and I'm not, so it doesn't look like I'm smiling or feeling good, or if I'm like this and I'm seeming agitated, to have sort of some of that explained. I mean, it would have to be the person themselves saying it, but that's because I was on a retreat in person once, and someone asked me to talk about it because they didn't really understand what was going on with me. So yeah, you see now it's getting harder. But this has been good. So.
I think that's a really important point to Viriyagita, and that the point you've made about maybe people misinterpreting what's going on for you. You might be, for example, inside very happy, but not giving that impression through movements in your body.
Or even being unkind when I'm not really meaning to do that either.
Right. Yeah.
Like my head can't move, I don't see the person, and just things like that. Yeah.
So how do you, I don't know if you can answer this question, you might have to go, but how could people actually help then? Would it be, for example, you've given the example of somebody asking you to talk about it. Would that help for you to talk about it at the beginning of a retreat?
Well, I think my saying, asking you to talk about it, or if someone or asking permission, someone could talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the privacy and the permission aspect in there, but but and at the beginning it would probably be the most help. Yeah.
Okay, well that's really practical communication, because we've spoken to a few people, and one thing we've discussed or talked about is how retreat leaders, how retreat centers can help people be on retreat who have got physical challenges. Well, Viriyagita, I think, should we call it a day there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, I just wanted, before I stop the recording, I just wanted to thank you very much, Viriyagita, for talking to me today and talking to the order via this video as well. So thank you very much, and thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been lovely preparing for it.
Right.
It really hasn't.
Yeah.